had a career?
No, I'm actually, I write, and I'm involved in music, and so everything that I ever attempt to do is a long shot. It's all very unsteady and unstable.
Great, but that's career.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not tangible. You know, I mean, it's not like going 9 to 5.
No,
but that's very much about your work, and your work is very important to you. I think you'll be a very solid parent. You've got a lot of planets in Capricorn, not just the sun. So there's you will give security to this child.
Oh.
I'm sure this is an issue you're worried about.
Huh?
Yeah, you will give security, and I wouldn't worry about it. And you have enough structure to take care of both the child and your career with all this Capricorn energy. So keep up the good work.
I hope.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you for calling. And we're going to get to Janice in Yorktown. We'll also get to Teresa in Bedford Hills. A couple seconds away. This is Meet the VIPs with Mary Michelle. Back in 1 minute. For the best fuel oil service and burner installation, remember the name Marshall. Marshall Oil offering fast 24-hour emergency astrology with Mary Michelle on Meet the VIPs this Friday morning. Let's say good morning to Janice. Janice, date of birth, September 21st, 1941. Good morning. You're watching on Cable Channel 12 in Yorktown. You're on with Mary Michelle, Janice.
Hi, Janice. Did you have a particular question?
I'm kind of not sure of what I should be doing. I want to make some changes. And
Okay.
which way to go?
All right. Okay, you have the sun in Virgo and the moon in Libra. So, there's with the moon in Libra, there is this need to work with people and to kind of create harmony in the way that you, in anything that you do. It's a very strong unconscious need to try to be as harmonious as possible. And then, of course, with the sun in Virgo, there is this detail, perfection-oriented stuff. So sometimes that can be a little bit of a conflict of interest. But anyway, have you worked with people in the past? Is this something that, do you work?
Right now I'm not. But I've worked before, yes. But
Well, I think that you would be very good working with people. It's something that you should definitely get out. You have Mercury in Libra. You have a very charismatic way of talking and communicating with people. So I think that you have to, try and use that. Do you feel that? Do you feel that you're a good communicator as a rule?
no.
No? Well,
I feel the opposite.
really? Well, I would bet that if you asked 10 of your friends, they would probably say that you're better than you think you are. So, the sun in Virgo, the tendency is to always want it to be better. There's a certain perfection. But with the moon in Libra and with Mercury in Libra, you should get out and you should try to, work with people, something like working in a beauty parlor or working in some kind of a place of business that, is kind of light and fun and, can also be a little bit helpful to other people, all for a service of some sort.
Now, I've tried to get into doing that kind of work, but it didn't pan out.
Right. Well, there's a good, strong chance that it will next month. That you're coming up to a good time now. So perhaps you could try again. Is that or in something closely related? Is that possible?
I don't think, I haven't pursued anything.
Well, I think it's time to pursue it. And I think you'll get a lot back from it if you pursue it now. From now, until the end of the month. In the end of September. So, give it a good shot.
Okay, Janice, we thank you for calling.
Thank you for calling.
Mary Michelle, you keep talking about this, and I just want to tell Teresa, who's holding on from Bedford Hills, we'll get to you momentarily. The idea of being open to new suggestions is so vitally important if you are somebody who believes in astrology, correct?
Is it just astrology? I mean, I think it's life,
I think, but people, it's like when Bob Reeby is here. He says people are afraid of risk, taking the chance to do something.
Yeah.
I assume it's the same thing with this. All right. You see, I got a nod at least out of it. That's good. All right, we're talking to Teresa from Bedford Hills, watching on Cable Channel 12. Hope you like the tie this morning. Date of birth is February 17th, 1943. Good morning, Teresa. You're on with Mary Michelle.
Morning.
Good morning. Did you have a particular question?
Not really. I just general information about health and future and just general. Is it the time of day I was born?
I can't do that on the air. I just give very general ideas here. I can't. That's much more complicated. All right. So the sun in Aquarius, the nature of the sun in Aquarius is kind of interested in this sort of thing. Have you had a chart done before?
No.
No. Well, you might, if you don't want to actually go to an astrologer, you could just pay for the service to get the chart printed out for you. They have these in the back of most of the New Age occult astrology magazines. They're computer services. So you might want to get that. You might want to have a, I think it's $3 or $4 to have the chart printed out. Or you can go and see an astrologer, which would be, considerably more expensive. Anyway, okay. So you have the sun in Aquarius and the moon in Cancer. Are you involved with children? Are you a mother, or do you teach, or?
No.
No. You don't have children?
No children.
No children. Did you want to have children?
Excuse me?
Did you want to?
I did work at one time, yes.
Yeah. And was it with children?
No.
No. All right. Well, you'd be very good at things like computers. Do you work with computers?
Just a short time.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's easy for you. It will come easy for you. You understand it. Anything that's kind of technological or a little ahead of its time, you have the capacity to grasp new ideas, quicker than others. In the realm of love, you have Venus in Pisces, which is the most beautiful place for Venus, but it's a little idealistic. Are you married?
Yes.
And do you sometimes yearn for some kind of perfection? Is your husband not quite as chivalrous as you would like him to be?
At times, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a beautiful place, and it teaches you to learn about love not only between human beings, but also with the spiritual and the sublime. So you might want to look into the idea of philosophy in a slightly more unusual way, though, than someone that just would, benefit greatly from organized religion. So I hope I've helped you.
All right, thank you for calling. And we have an open line now at 241-1310. 241-1310. Get on the phone, talk to Mary Michelle. We will be back in 1 minute.
You'll save every day up to 70% on famous brand names.
Mike Sarnoff with you, along with Mary Michelle, our astrologer. You can call us at 241-1310. On the phone with us now, this was one of the first people who called but got disconnected. It's Kitty.
Hi, Kitty.
Kitty's date of birth is August 6, 1950. Good morning. You're on with Mary Michelle.
Good morning. Happy belated.
Oh, hello.
Hi. Did you have a particular question?
Well, no, just general tendencies for the year in
Okay.
health.
Health?
Health and work.
Okay. August 6th. All right. The sun in Leo. You have the moon in Taurus. This is a hard angle. The sun, the moon is exalted here, so the idea of the unconscious is very solid within itself. I mean, you usually get what you need. The moon in Taurus is someone that, things do come to them, particularly in the area of comfort. And it's usually pretty healthy as well. It's a very healthy sign. But squaring the sun is difficult. So sometimes it's difficult to get your conscious and your unconscious together. And, it might have been experienced with the, as a child with difficulties as you observed your parents. Not necessarily that they themselves saw it that way, but that you might have had this observation. You have Mercury in Virgo, and Venus in Cancer, Mars in Libra. Let's see. You were probably a very good student. Are you someone that likes to learn?
Well, recently, I've just been coming through the last year has been it's getting better. I feel like I'm coming out of a rough time.
Mm-hmm.
Things seem to be getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And recently, I do feel more interested in learning. I haven't felt that way previous to this.
Well, certainly as of November, it will get stronger and stronger. This trend that I was talking about this morning with Pluto in Sagittarius, it's trining. It's a harmonious angle. It's a very good angle to your sun and also to your natal Pluto. So all of us, the baby boomers, we are experiencing kind of a good time now. Things will start to rejuvenate.
It will. I feel like it's been such an upheaval the last. Is that
yes?
case? Yeah. But it's supposed to.
When Pluto moves on into Sagittarius in November, and then when Uranus goes into Aquarius in January, it's really going to be a terribly good time for us.
Oh, great. That financially and in terms of health and work also, in all aspects, you mean? Or?
Well, in other words, you have to expand your horizons. You have to expand particularly the way you think, and the whatever spiritual discipline that you follow. I mean, these are the areas that are going to give you the sustenance to make the other things happen. Money is usually something. It's ruled the sign of Taurus, which is money, which is where you have your moon. As a rule, I would think that money is something that does come to you. When you really need it, it's not a big problem for you. Is that would you say that's true?
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't think that there are going to be issues around money and so on, but there will be issues about you trying to stir your creativity. You're going to have to be more creative. You're going to have to work very hard at expanding your mind and your spirit.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for calling, Kitty. We have an open line at 241-1310. If you want to get in and talk to Mary Michelle, great time to do it, 241-1310. Any other general things now with Pluto going into Sagittarius? I'm sitting here listening to what you've been saying, particularly you said for the baby boomers, this is a real good opportunity.
Well, the baby boomers were all born with Pluto in Leo. And we're, statistically the largest group of people that's ever existed born at the same time on the planet. There are just more of us. And we were types that took on, we took on life with gusto, should we say. I think certainly the late 60s, early 70s were a time when people were really willing to try anything, go in any direction, and I think that, there was a slight egocentricity attached to it. But I think it was also very inspirational. So we're coming back to an inspirational time. So I think it's a good time for baby boomers. And the ones that can't make the transition are going to have a rougher time.
Okay. Ready for another call?
Yes.
Okay. This is Moya calling from Bedford. She's watching on Cable Channel 12. Date of birth, July 29th, 1923. Happy belated birthday to you, Moya. A couple of days late. It's all right. You're on with Mary Michelle.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you? Is there a particular question?
I was just wondering about my health.
Your health. Okay, July 29th. Okay, you were born also at the full moon. I've talked to a couple of people today with this configuration, which is, again, it's this idea of extreme conscious and emotions, the consciousness and the emotions. It's very intense, that polarity that's going on inside of you. Then you have Mercury in Leo. You have Venus in Cancer, Mars in Leo. I think that is there something in particular with your health that you're worried about?
Arthritis?
Arthritis, yeah. Well, Leo does rule the back. It rules the spinal cord and the heart. Those are the two areas that it rules. So there is this tendency, and with all of these fixed things with the moon in Aquarius and all these planets in Leo, there's something very rigid, fixed about, and then the spine, of course, is something that's very fixed. So the tendency is to the way to take care of yourself with the Venus and Cancer is probably lots of hot baths. I don't know if one can do that with arthritis, or cold baths. That wouldn't be too much fun. But anyway, baths of a sort, maybe mineral baths. That would be a good place to start. Want to go to Budapest?
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. Well,
All
thank you
right.
very much for calling.
Okay, thank you for calling. On line 2, we've got Marion from Bedford. Date of birth is February 15th, 1920, 2/15/20. Good morning, Marion. You're on with Mary Michelle.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The question I'd like to ask is, why do I always put people on the defensive when I meet them? I seem to give them a negative impression of what I'm really like.
Well, you sure don't sound that way to me.
Thank you.
Okay, you have the sun in Aquarius. You have the moon in Capricorn. Mercury in Pisces. Venus in Capricorn. The nature of the ancient ruler of Aquarius and the present ruler of Capricorn is Saturn, and the nature of Saturn is sort of heavy. There's this there's a certain lack of lightness of spirit. So I think if there is, if you have this feeling that people, you make them nervous or whatever, it might be out of a certain amount of seriousness. Do you think that sometimes you're a little too serious?
Would be, yes.
Yeah. It's okay. I think it's very good to be serious. I think conversation is very interesting when people are very serious about it and so on. With Mercury in Pisces, there is the tendency for you to get your feelings hurt when someone isn't responding to the seriousness of your conversation. So I think you just have to realize that it's okay, that not everybody would be interested in these things, but they're not really, they don't dislike you. They just maybe don't know how to have these kind of conversations with you. So maybe you have to find other ways to be with them.
Give me a general idea of what my future will be like, a sort of, health-wise, money-wise.
Well, when Uranus goes into your sign in January, you should experience a real resurgence of energy. Now, the nature of Uranus is it's higher telepathic thought. It's communication, higher communication. There'll be all kinds of new ways. We think the fax is kind of busy and kind of exciting and new, but what's going to happen after the first of the year, I think, is really going to be quite phenomenal. The only difficulty on a personal level is that the nature of the sun in Aquarius and the planet Uranus is it's a little shocking. Sometimes you might do things that are a little shocking to your physical body. So you want to try to nurture yourself and take care of things, and particularly the bones, probably.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for calling. We're just almost out of time. We've got about 2.5 minutes left. Are there any things that people should be aware of for this coming week? I know Pluto's going to go into Sagittarius November, did you say, I believe? But my question is, where are we going to go this week? Are there certain tendencies that everybody should be aware of? It's going to be a good week, a bad week, or is it what we make of it?
Of course, it's what we make of it.
I know
But
that
the tendency,
also, but I asked the question anyway.
the tendency. I'm glad you did, Mike. It's a good question to ask. The tendency this week will be with these planets, with Venus moving into Virgo and with the Sun moving into Virgo, that people are really going to be thinking about their routines, their rituals, going to get their physical checkups, going to buy whatever clothes they need for going back to work, going to school. There's a whole vibe in that direction of things being, very detailed and very structured. It's a good time. Next week would be a good time to invest in any new computer equipment if you wanted to buy new.
Don't say that. The reason I asked, the reason I started to laugh is that's exactly what we're doing next. Got another kid ready for graduate school. Things like that happen. Patty is on line 1. Do you have time for one more quick phone call? Okay. Hold on. Patty, are you there? Because you're on with Mary Michelle. Date of birth is March 19th, 1963. You're on with Mary Michelle. We've got about a minute and a half left.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, how are you? March, what was it?
March 19th.
March 19th, 1963.
Right.
Right. Okay, you have the sun in Pisces. You have the moon in Capricorn. Are you calling me about money?
Just a general reading I was, wondering about.
All right. Well, one of your, ongoing things that you think about. I mean, I know most people do, but money is a big unconscious thing for you with the moon in Capricorn. You have Venus in Pisces. You have Mercury in Pisces, Venus in Aquarius. Do you do something a little unusual?
Oh, I'm just a mother of 3 boys.
Well, I bet it keeps you busy.
Yes.
Okay. Well, do you like to dress in a slightly unusual fashion?
No, not really.
No. Well, you should occasionally let yourself come up with some kind of slightly egocentric way of putting things together. I mean, if you want to put strange colors together or whatever, it would be something that would probably be very helpful to you, and you would, make you feel happier and so on.
Oh, okay.
And other than that, I think that you're someone that has a lot of compassion. You've got Mercury and the Sun in Pisces, so it's about nurturing and taking care of yourself and other people.
Okay.
Hey, Patty, thank you for calling in. If you have kids who are school age, just remember, less than 3 weeks, kids go back to school. 2 weeks and 5 days, I think it is. Mary Michelle, we have just about run out of time for today. You back next week, I think?
I am indeed.
Oh, goody.
Yes.
We're going to have more on this, because I want to find out more about this Pluto and Sagittarius. I know you talked about it, but I've got some more questions about it, and we will talk about that next week. Mary Michelle, thanks for joining with us.
Thank you.
Have a great week also.
You too,
Take
Mike.
advantage of the opportunities, as they say.
Okay.
Mary Michelle here at WVIP.
I mean, they need to have a full mane of hair. They need to be center stage. And this thing that happened with Delilah came rather late in life because Samson had already been through several trials when he was younger. But he'd gotten to the point where he was sort of resting on his laurels, being the chief of his tribe or the king or whatever. And so when Delilah arrived, whose name in Hebrew means literally water bearer, which is the symbol for the sign of Aquarius, and the connection between these two is that they are the opposite signs. Leo and Aquarius are the perfect opposites. So anyway, Delilah comes along rather late in life when he doesn't believe that he can be undermined or that he can be thrown off or he can lose his power. Which, of course, the minute that one starts to have that kind of arrogance, this is when one gets into trouble. So Delilah shows up and gets him to tell her the secret of his strength and why it is that he has never been able to be dethroned or, someone else has been able to come along and take his place. So she does this, and not only does he lose his strength, but he loses his sight, which is also very much a part of the myth of Leo, which is ruled by the sun, which is part of the concept of light. Light is something that in most religious philosophical beliefs is terribly, terribly important. They talk about walking into the light or how you will have the perfect, altered state experience through a bright white light. Anyway, all of these things come from the idea of the sun and the stars. Well, they don't come from that, but this is the scientific end, if you would. In the ancient days, astrology was the scientific end of this, trying to understand where these technical light forms come from. And the sign that rules, that is ruled by is Leo, is ruled by the sun. So anyway, the fact that he lost his eyesight again is reminiscent of the sign Leo. And this is what astrology does over and over again. It tries to give you correlations or images or ideas that are helping you to relate, to look at things from a different point of view. And hopefully in a more positive one. If you can imagine something being yellow, and that yellow is, it can be a sign, in medical terminology, yellow is usually the color of rather unpleasant things that happen to the body. But in metaphysical thinking, yellow is the color of intelligence. It's also the color of the sun, back to this idea of the sun and light. So anyway, as you can see, there are many stories in this book that he's brought up, this rabbi, about the different concepts, and that he's trying to have people understand that astrology is something that can work in conjunction with most of the great religions and philosophies.
All right, thought comes to mind. I am currently reading Beach Music by Pat Conroy, and I'm still reading it. It takes a little while to print small for me. But in there, they are talking about some fundamentalist sects down in the South, where they were, snakes and things like that. Does the snake have any significance in astrology? Or what is the significance as it applies to religion?
Well, it's not per se. There is no one sign that correlates exactly to the snake. You might say that it correlates somewhat to the sign of Scorpio, inasmuch as that in Eastern thought and philosophy, the snake represents what is called the Kundalini energy, which is the sexual energy. And basically what the snake does in the Garden of Eden is tempt Eve. So there is this idea that the nature of sex is something that is very tempting, and the snake represents that. Now, in the East, this is not the way it's necessarily thought. This kind of rhythm and movement of the snake is very highly regarded. The snake is considered the animal that has great wisdom. So, you can see where sometimes these ideas will move a little bit. And I think what happens with fundamentalists, with people that, want to believe in one idea, they tend to not really understand how life is about the blending of opposites. Of course, if you go, too far in one direction and you deal with sex only by seducing people, and you constantly want to conquer, whether you're a man-eater or you're a man that wants a lot of women, whatever it is, this is, of course, not a healthy thing. But the idea of sex, particularly in the ancient times, was one, very important because of procreative purposes, but also it was important because it was the way one merged with another. It was the way that you became more complete as a human being. It was the way you could understand yourself better, was through this merging of opposites, this blending of opposites. And it's interesting, in the story of Samson and Delilah, the rabbi in the book is pointing out the fact that such destruction was brought down on him was because they were trying to make a point to the Jews at the time that they shouldn't fool around with very seductive women.
All right, but the Jews, a thought just comes to mind also, and that is that you have to be obedient. Thou shalt have one God and no other. The Jews have always been a nomadic people, and I'm wondering if there is anything in that book that deals with why they have been that. We still consider ourselves nomadic people. Mm-hmm. Yes, there is Israel, but at times it's very difficult to come up. Is there anything in there about why Jewish people feel as if they are nomadic? Is there anything in the stars that would have said that?
Well, the origin of the place where the Jews, came from, the Middle East, most of the tribe